variants is causing this surge.
That was DOH epidemiologist John Wong not discounting the possibility that the new variants are behind the surge in COVID-19 cases. 52 new cases of the South African variant were detected in the country. 31 new UK variant infections were also recorded.
Positivity rate in the country already climbed close to 10%. The Philippines just logged its highest single-day case yet since October, with more than 3,000 cases today. Good evening, I'm Gretchen Ho.
And I am Robbie Alampay. You're watching The Big Story. We begin tonight with the Health Department confirming more cases of the South African and UK variants of COVID-19.
A research group stresses we can still reverse this trend. JC Cosico has the big story.
There now seems to be a race between vaccines and variants. Just as COVID-19 shots are being rolled out, more cases of the new variants have been detected. The Health Department reported 52 new cases of the B1351 or South African variant. 41 are from Metro Manila, one of whom has recovered. There are now 58 cases of the contagious variant, with 51 still active. The DOH resident epidemiologist says the new variant may be driving the surge.
One evidence that the variant could be causing this surge is we've detected the variant just before cases start to rise.
Should the variant continue to spread, the Octa research projects average daily cases in NCR to shoot up to 2,200 before month end. The region's reproduction number is at 1.47, meaning an infected person can transmit the virus to more than one person.
That's why we must address this surge. And we showed a different scenario wherein trend was sort of controlled, perhaps through localized lockdowns.
In Pasay City alone, average daily cases in the previous week reached 150. Barangay 76 was said to be a hotspot.
They had 128 cases over the past week, which translates to 17 to 18 cases per day in that barangay alone.
Meanwhile, the Health Department also identified 31 new and active cases of the B117 or UK variant, 28 of which are from NCR while 3 are still being verified. Total cases are now at 118. The DOH also detected 42 more cases of mutations of interest, but regardless of the emerging variants, the Octa research group stresses the need to observe health protocols.
Whatever the variants that emerge, we have to, number one, mask up. We have to use the face shield because that's a combo as far as the Department of Health is concerned. We do need to be more disciplined with the practice of social distancing.
The challenge now for government, says the research group, is to heighten its testing, tracing, and isolation. For News 5, JC Cosico, We Are One News.
To give us their take on the COVID situation in the country, we have with us Dr. Anna Ong Lim of the Health Professionals Alliance Against COVID-19. Doc, how do you assess our current situation? On the one hand, there is rising hope, especially with the arrival of vaccines. On the other hand, there is also rising anxiety now that people are now more conscious about the possibility and likelihood that it is the new variants that are driving the rise in the number of cases in the country. And the bottom line, how do you see it?
Robbie, there's really some cause for concern because the numbers are going up. And regardless of what's driving it, we really do need to be more active in terms of containing the spread of this infection. And fortunately, regardless of whether this is being driven up by the variants or just the regular garden variety virus that we've been used to, we still have to do the same thing. So I always keep saying we're so blessed that the only thing that we really need to do is practice apat dapat. Kahit na may variant ka, ganun pa rin ang kinauumian. And mabuti na nga lang at yun lang ang kailangan.
Yes, but Dr. Ong Lim, when it comes to the individuals and how we should behave, as you said, that's clear. We just continue what we're doing in terms of best practice. But in terms of
Right.
policy, in terms of local government, for example, alam niyo naman, pinag-uusapan ngayon, MGCQ, GCQ, should we loosen, should we tighten? When it comes to that level, should we presume that the rising numbers are being driven by the new variants?
I had the opportunity to speak to the local government unit in Pasay when we discussed this because I also work with the COVID-19 task force, the variants task force. And I have to say that they've been very cooperative. No? They actually are very active in terms of a public information campaign. And they also do encourage or try as much as possible to do the appropriate contact tracing, which I think is really the key to be able to contain these infections. Nga lang kasi, the problem is when the cases are reported late, people consult a few days into the illness. Of course, there is a tendency to already have gotten into contact with many people, and it will be difficult to establish who it is that you have actually been exposed to, and it becomes that much more difficult to find out who you should be warning that they might need to be tested or to be observed. So I guess the point here is that as individuals, once again, no, if we start feeling symptoms, let's not let time pass by too long before consult. And if we are in an area where there's active transmission of cases, then do please consider being tested right away.
Okay, maraming salamat po. That was Dr. Ana Ong Lim of the Health Professionals Alliance. Along with more variant cases being reported, new COVID-19 cases reached a record high today. Tonight's big number, 3,045. That's the highest single-day tally since October last year. This also pushes the total number of active infections past the 40,000 mark. Total reported cases in the country now stands at more than 587,000. DOH data also shows that positivity rate in the country as of today climbed to close to 10%.
These are the other big stories tonight. The Immunization Advisory Group has already made its recommendation for the rollout of AstraZeneca vaccines. No dates yet, but one thing's for sure, it's recommended for senior citizens. Cinemas were supposed to reopen in the Metro today, but that has been deferred once again. Metro Manila mayors are set to meet tomorrow to come up with a uniform position. And pushed by an increase in food prices, especially pork, inflation accelerates to its quickest pace yet in more than 2 years, to 4.7%. But a new source of protein is seeing a price surge, galunggong. These big stories right after the break.
Good evening, I'm Robbie Alampay. You're still watching The Big Story. AstraZeneca shots landed Thursday night, so what now? Top officials have yet to determine the date of its actual rollout, but what's clear is that it can be used on frontliners and for a larger age group. Maricel Halili with the details.
AstraZeneca vaccines are here, but no word yet on its official rollout. Health Secretary Francisco Duque says he already received a recommendation of the National Immunization Technical Advisory Group, or NITAG, on AstraZeneca's distribution. It's now up for the IATF's approval. Vaccines are Carlito Galvez said guidelines will be almost the same as that of Sinovac. It's okay for use on medical frontliners, but will vary depending on the age group. The Food and Drug Administration has cleared Sinovac for those aged 18 to 59, while AstraZeneca may be used for senior citizens.
Kanilang recommendation na yung 60 and above, ito po sa AstraZeneca. And then later, yung mga pagkukulang na mga kulang sa mga areas nationwide ay bibigyan din po. Pero majority po yan sa mga affected areas po.
In 1PH sa totoo lang, a health expert also backed AstraZeneca's use for the elderly general public.
The current EUA for Astra in the country is 18 and above. So walang upper limit ng age, which means pwede siya sa seniors. Yes.
Sa seniors natin.
However, when it comes to variant efficacy, experts say there is still not enough data to tell which one is better for a particular variant.
Unfortunately, as of the moment, there is not enough data nowhere in the world that can tell us unequivocally that this or that vaccine is most effective for this and that variant.
The WHO promised 4.5 million doses of AstraZeneca within the first and second quarter of the year. According to Galvez, the second tranche will be shipped after the first batch has been consumed. The country now has more than 1 million doses of vaccines, still short of the 1.7 million health workers targeted to be inoculated. President Duterte also announced on Thursday that the Chinese government will donate another 400,000 doses of vaccine.
Siyempre, walang ibang pwedeng i-donate kundi Sinovac dahil Sinovac lang ang merong EUA. Pero kung mag-aantay tayo, baka po pwedeng Sinopharm matapos ma-aproban ang EUA.
The additional donated vaccines from China is expected to be delivered before the end of this month. For News 5, Maricel Halili, We Are One News.
Frontliners will soon have 2 COVID-19 vaccine brands to choose from with the arrival of AstraZeneca shots. But how exactly does the Oxford vaccine differ from other brands? Mobile journalist Stanley Gahete giving you a front seat to the story.
The first thing about AstraZeneca is where they are made. They are produced by British pharmaceutical company. All vaccines are basically the same. The difference is how they tell your body to fight the virus.
The most common type is called inactivated virus like Sinovac. It uses an inactivated or dead COVID virus to trigger an immune response. AstraZeneca is called a viral vector vaccine. It works along with other live viruses, mainly adenoviruses, to tell the body to fight COVID-19. Astra was the second vaccine after Pfizer to pass clinical trials and approved for emergency use. Unlike Sinovac, the WHO advisory group says Astra can be used on older people, those aged 65 and up. It is also recommended for persons with obesity, diabetes, heart disease, and respiratory disease. Astra is also safe for people with autoimmune conditions like HIV and for breastfeeding mothers. The UK vaccine has an efficacy rate of 62% for those showing symptoms of COVID-19. A recent scientific study of the Oxford University, currently under review at The Lancet, shows that a single dose of the Oxford vaccine offered 76% protection for 3 months. And this went up to 82% after the second dose. The vaccine has only 74.6% efficacy rate to UK variant. But WHO still believes AstraZeneca vaccine is effective against the South Africa variant despite studies claiming otherwise.
All these vaccines have different efficacy rates and how they were made. But the best vaccine is the one you can get right now. Stanley Gahete, We Are One News.
Vaccine confidence among private hospitals is rising as the CoronaVac rollout began this week. A group of private medical facilities now urges frontliners to grab the opportunity as soon as possible. JC Cosico with the details.
On this day last year, the first local COVID-19 transmission, patient number 5, was admitted to Cardinal Santos Medical Center in San Juan. A year later, CSMC has vaccinated its medical staff with Sinovac's CoronaVac. At least 1,000 of their workers are willing to receive the China-made vaccines. Among the first recipients, patient number 5's attending pulmonologist, Nino Hill O'Connor. O'Connor recounts that unforgettable March 5.
Nag-quarantine ako yung day na yon kasi exposed kami. But I always wear mask naman during that time.
He has managed to remain negative for COVID-19 to this day, but he wished the vaccines have been developed sooner to prevent some deaths.
Sana lang talaga, kaya lang talagang ganun. It took time talaga to create this vaccine.
The De Los Santos Medical Center in Quezon City has also given Sinovac shots to some 300 health workers.
Nowadays, people shy away from going to the hospital because they're scared. But if the people here are well protected, chances of spreading amongst us and to our patient is less likely.
The Private Hospitals Association of the Philippines says 70% of employees earlier consented to getting vaccines. More than half backed out upon learning that it would be CoronaVac. But once rollouts began, PHAP observed that more workers were convinced to get the Chinese jab.
Most of them are waiting for the AstraZeneca, but some still believes na okay na yung Sinovac.
PHAP reports a decline in moderate and severe cases, with bed occupancy currently at 30 to 40%. It urges all medical frontliners to have themselves vaccinated as soon as possible. For News 5, JC Cosico, we are One News.
Approximately 13,000 frontliners have received Sinovac shots since Monday. 125 adverse effects were recorded, barely 1% of the total. More hospitals conducted inoculation today, including Davao City at the Southern Philippines Medical Center. Meanwhile, more vaccine brands are on their way. The country's envoy to the U.S., Babes Romualdez, said 20 million doses of Moderna vaccines will arrive by May or early June. Romualdez says the country will also receive some 30 million doses of the Novavax shot, enough to inoculate 15 million people. Presidential Advisor for Entrepreneurship, Joey Concepcion, meanwhile told One News the chiefs that more than 2 million AstraZeneca doses will also arrive by May or June. These shots were secured by the private sector.
Time for an express look at some of the day's big stories. Mall operators are again deferring the reopening of movie houses despite a Department of Trade and Industry circular allowing 25% capacity in GCQ areas beginning today. MMDA Chairman Benhur Abalos says Metro Manila mayors will be meeting tomorrow to come up with a uniform position on the matter. Despite getting flack, Interior Undersecretary Jonathan Malaya urges local executives to get COVID-19 jabs. The palace said earlier that officials who got inoculated before medical frontliners breached protocol. Malaya told One News Agenda that vaccinating leaders will boost vaccine confidence. The official goes on to say this was the very reason he received the shot. A Muntinlupa RTC affirms its dismissal of detained Senator Laila De Lima's bail petition. In an order released today, the court said they denied De Lima and her former aide Ronnie Dayan's motions for reconsideration due to lack of merit. Time for another quick break. When we return, rise in prices of goods quickened to its fastest pace yet in more than 2 years. One other protein source is also seeing a spike in prices. And there's going to be a new viewing experience on 5 as primetime Kapamilya shows have found a new home. Find out what those are after the break.
Good evening. You're still watching The Big Story. I'm Robbie Alampay. Inflation hit a 2-year high in February. Pork supplies from provinces helped slow down inflation in Manila, but these areas are now the ones seeing a spike in prices. Dale De Vera with the details.
Malu, a vendor from Quezon City, can barely get her family a day's worth of decent meals with a 200 peso daily budget. She says it is even harder to earn money for her family of 6 in this pandemic.
Pinagkakasya ko lang yung 200 ko sa loob ng isang araw. Sobrang hirap talaga po ngayon kagawa ng sa pandemic.
February inflation hit 4.7%, the highest since January 2019. Economist Nicolas Mapa attributes this to the problem in pork supply. He says importing supply is only a short-term solution for the hog industry.
The key issue here is kung ma-address ng authorities yung supply side issues, di ba? So kung pinabayaan nila yung African swine fever problem, baka tuloy-tuloy talaga yung increase.
But as provinces send pork to the metro to address the gap, meat prices outside NCR picked up to 20.8%, while its prices in NCR slowed down to 20.4%. Economist Professor Emmanuel Leco tells Business World Live this might also be due to a shift to other alternatives.
In terms of how the numbers showed up in the National Capital Region, I think the shift to other alternatives other than pork was more swift than in other provinces, in other areas. So before it was a pork-focused diet, I guess NCR residents shifted to something like fish.
With inflation accelerating for 5 straight months, purchasing power has weakened as well. But MAPA does not advise the public to cut spending, as it will slow down or even stall economic activities. Presidential Advisor Joey Concepcion suggests a gradual easing of curbs to rev up consumer spending. He is also for the relaxation of age restrictions to allow more economic activity.
If you were to choose two, what would spur economic activity? Definitely it's to relax the age, and Secretary Mon Lopez even supports that, and the economic team.
Malacanang says the president wants to see 2 million Filipinos inoculated first before lifting quarantine statuses in various parts of the country. For News 5, Dale De Vera, We're One News.
Meantime, still on inflation, it's not just about pork anymore. Galunggong is also seeing a spike in prices. What's touted as a poor man's fish is now at 300 pesos per kilo from the previous 200. Vendors say the rise was pandemic-induced, but others believe the hike is normal as changing water temperature affects volume of catch. Cabinet Secretary Carlo Nograles says the Agriculture Department is keeping close watch on fish products to determine if a price cap on that is necessary too.
Imo-monitor po natin itong mga presyo hindi lamang ng galunggong pati yung ibang mga presyo ng pagkain po natin. And we will await kung ano yung magiging hakbang or ano yung magiging action points ng Department of Agriculture tungkol po dito.
Let's take a look at the biggest stories on print and online. From Philstar.com, a Mandaluyong court orders the release of detained and red-tagged journalist Lady Ann Salem and labor organizer Rodrigo Esparago. The court said search warrants that led to their arrest can be declared void due to deliberate falsehoods by the police. The court had already dismissed the charges of illegal possession of firearms and explosives against them a month ago. Business World reports that Mon Nissin Corporation has filed for a record-breaking initial public offering of up to 63 billion pesos. The Lucky Me and Skyflakes maker intends to sell shares at a maximum of 17.50 pesos apiece. And this from News 5. The BGC Ortigas Link project is now 80% complete, according to the Public Works Department. It is expected to be fully operational by the second half of the year. The 1.7-kilometer bridge will go over the Pasig River and will connect the business districts of Bonifacio Global City and Ortigas. In the world of sports, more trade-offs in the PBA. Barangay Ginebra is now sending Greg Slaughter to Northport in exchange for Christian Stan Hardinger. Slaughter had decorated stint with Ginebra for 6 seasons. His move to Northport will mark his return to the PBA after a year away from professional basketball. In an Instagram post, Slaughter thanked Ginebra for the tremendous 6 years. C-Stan, who only had 2 conferences with Northport, also thanked the management and his Batang Pierre team. The Phil-German Center is seen as a formidable addition in Ginebra's front line, along with Japet Aguilar. The one that got away indeed. The Filipino-born chess grandmaster Wesley Saw is officially a U.S. citizen. According to the U.S. Chess Federation, Saw became a U.S. citizen on February 26. He moved to the U.S. in 2012 after frustrations with politics in Philippine sports. Now a world number 9 and reigning U.S. chess champion, Saw said he wants to give back to a country that allowed him to harness his potential. He says he still has good memories from the Philippines, but would not have likely succeeded in his craft with past impediments. His citizenship effectively bars him from returning to the Philippines to represent the country in chess.
Hindi pa tapos ang laban ni Cardo.
No, there's no killing Cardo Dalisay. In fact, the Provinciano protagonist will be appearing on the Kapatid Network. Starting March 8, TV5 in partnership with Signal will simulcast ABS-CBN's Primetime Bida, led by FPJ's Ang Provinciano.
Sana lang huwag niyo maranasan na dumating sa buhay niyong ganitong pagkakataon. Dahil napakasakit siya.
ABS-CBN's Asak Natin To and FPJ The King were first simulcast on TV5 last January 24. The 2 networks debunked rumors that the longest-running teleserye in the Philippines would finally end this April. Viewers may also catch other Kapamilya shows, including Ang Sa Iyo Ay Akin, Walang Hanggang Paalam, and Pinoy Big Brother Connect. That's weekdays from 8 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. TV5 and Signal President and CEO Robert Galang says the deal will benefit Filipino viewers across the country because of TV5's extensive coverage. For News 5, MJ Marfori, we are One News.
In Cebu, an elementary music teacher is gaining traction for her singing tutorials. Danica Areglado Gokong, or Teacher Dan, lost her job due to the pandemic. She resorted to creating online content aiming to give good vibes while being informative. Teacher Dan's greatest feat so far, her tutorial on Do You Wanna Build a Snowman from Disney's Frozen. It already has more than 180,000 reactions, 46,000 shares, and 19,000 comments.
Do you wanna build a snowman? Dire, snowdrop man up. Come on, let's go and play. There is emotion in it. Play.
I love it.
Ang ganda naman, ano?
I hope somebody hires her or gives her a job. Or probably she can make a YouTube channel.
Oo, dapat.
Diba?
Nakakatuwa sa YouTube, dami mong matututunan, di ba?
And speaking of which, you know, it's so nice to end the week with good news. ABS-CBN will be airing some of their shows here
Buhay pa
on
po,
TV5.
buhay pa po.
Buhay
Hindi
na
po
buhay.
totoong balita na patay. Buhay na buhay po, probinsyano.
Buhay na buhay. Yun talaga si Cardo. Crossing networks at buhay na buhay talaga.
Walang kamatayan!
That wraps up today's big story. My name is Gretchen Ho. Catch us again on Monday at 8 p.m. on Signal Channels 8 and 250.
Please like our Facebook page, One News. For more in-depth analysis, visit our webpage, onenews.ph. I'm Robbie Alampay, and we are One News. Good evening.